Dr. Hye-jin Kim stood at her office window in Neo-Seoul, looking at the strange red sunset. The sun wasn't supposed to be this color, at least not for another billion years. But here they were, facing a dying star much too soon. She turned to look at the meditation room behind her. 20 silver meditation pods lined the walls, each connected to complex machines that measured brain activity. These pods were humanity's last hope, though most people didn't know it yet. "Dr. Kim, the latest sun readings are ready," said her assistant, bringing in a tablet. Hye-jin took it with steady hands, though her heart beat faster as she read the numbers. The sun's core was changing much faster than their worst predictions. "How long?" she asked, more to herself than her assistant. 2 years at most, if nothing changes," the assistant replied anyway. "Should I call the government team?" Hye-jin shook her head. "No. First, I need to test something." She walked to one of the meditation pods and opened it. The inside was soft and comfortable, designed for long meditation sessions. But today, she had added something new. A quantum field sensor, small enough to fit in her palm. For 30 years, Hye-jin had studied how human minds could affect the world around them. Most scientists laughed at her research, calling it nonsense, but she had proved that during deep meditation, the human brain could create tiny changes in quantum fields. Now she needed to see if these changes could reach further, all the way to the sun. She lay down in the pod and put on the neural headset. The pod closed smoothly, leaving her in comfortable darkness. Hye-jin started her breathing exercises, just like she had done thousands of times before. In, out, in, out. Her mind grew quiet. The quantum sensor began to buzz softly. On the screens outside, numbers and graphs showed her brain entering deeper meditation states. But Hye-jin wasn't watching those. In her mind, she reached out, trying to feel the massive nuclear fires of the sun. At first, there was nothing. Then, like a distant echo, she felt something respond. The sun's energy patterns shifted slightly, responding to her consciousness. The connection lasted only a second before breaking, but it was enough. Hye-jin's eyes snapped open, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. She quickly got out of the pod and went to her computer. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she wrote an urgent message to every major meditation center on Earth. They needed more people, more minds working together. One person could barely touch the sun's consciousness, but maybe thousands working together could do more. "Call the government team now," she told her assistant, "and get me the direct line to Admiral Lee. Tell him it's about saving the world." As her assistant rushed to make the calls, Hye-jin looked at the sunset again. The red light painted the city in strange colors, making the tall buildings look like they were on fire. People walked below, going about their normal lives, not knowing that their star was dying, not knowing that their only hope might lie in learning to meditate together on a scale never tried before. Hye-jin touched the window glass. "We're coming," she whispered to the troubled star above. "We just need a little time to get ready." Behind her, the meditation pods hummed quietly, waiting for the volunteers who would help change the course of human history. The quantum sensors blinked their small lights, measuring things that most people thought couldn't be measured. And somewhere in the city below, a young physicist named Jae-ho Park was about to receive a message that would change his life forever. The last ordinary sunset was ending. Tomorrow would bring the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge, and perhaps its greatest achievement. Jae-ho Park sat in his small laboratory, staring at the message on his computer screen. He read it again. "Your research on quantum consciousness could help save humanity. Come to Neo-Seoul Meditation Center immediately. Dr. Hye-jin Kim." He knew Dr. Kim's work. Everyone in quantum physics did, though most didn't take it seriously. But Jae-ho's own research showed something different. He had proof that human thoughts could change things at the quantum level. His university hadn't believed him, but maybe Dr. Kim would. 3 hours later, Jae-ho stood in Dr. Kim's office, holding his research papers tightly. The older scientist studied him with kind eyes. "Show me your discoveries," she said simply. Jaiho spread his papers on her desk. "When people meditate together, their brain waves sync up. But something else happens too." He pointed to his measurements. "The quantum field around them changes. And the more people meditate together, the stronger the change becomes." He-Jin nodded slowly. "And you think this effect could reach far distances?" "Yes, if we have enough people." Jaiho paused. "But why do we need to reach far? What are we trying to save humanity from?" Instead of answering, He-Jin led him to the window. The evening sky glowed an unnatural red. "The sun is dying, Jaiho. Much too early. We have maybe 2 years left." Jaiho felt his stomach drop. 2 years? But that's impossible. "Look at these readings." He-Jin showed him the sun data. "The core is changing. But yesterday, I made contact with it through meditation. The sun responded to human consciousness." Jaiho's mind raced with possibilities. "If my research is correct, and we gather enough people." He grabbed a pen and started calculating on a blank paper. "We would need millions of minds working together." "Billions," said a new voice. They turned to see Admiral Taiwan Lee standing in the doorway. The military leader walked in, his face serious. "The government is ready to help. We can build meditation centers across the country. But we need proof this will work." He-Jin smiled. "That's why Jaiho is here. Together, we'll prove it." Over the next week, Jaiho and He-Jin worked day and night. They combined their research, testing new ideas. Jaiho added his quantum sensors to He-Jin's meditation pods. They discovered that certain traditional Korean meditation techniques worked better than others for reaching the quantum field. One evening, as they were running tests, Jaiho's sister Sumai visited the lab. She was curious about her brother's new work. "Can I try?" she asked, looking at the meditation pod. He-Jin checked the safety readings. "A short session should be fine." Sumai lay down in the pod and closed her eyes. The machine started recording her brain patterns. At first, everything seemed normal. Then all the sensors suddenly lit up. "This is impossible," Jaiho whispered, staring at the readings. "She's reaching quantum field levels we thought would take years of training." He-Jin watched the numbers climb higher. "Some people have natural talent for this. Sumai might be exactly what we need." As if responding to their words, the red sunset outside briefly flickered to its normal yellow color. For just a moment, the sun's light was as it should be. Admiral Lee, who had been watching silently, stepped forward. "You have your proof. I'll start the Global Meditation Center project tomorrow." He looked at each of them. "Whatever you just did, find a way to make it stronger. Humanity's time is running out." In her pod, Sumai continued meditating, unaware that she had just helped prove humanity might have a chance to save itself. The real work was just beginning. New Year's Eve arrived cold and clear. In meditation centers across the world, millions of people prepared for humanity's first coordinated attempt to reach the sun. He-Jin Kim stood in the control room of the Neo Seoul Center, watching screens that showed similar rooms around the globe. "All centers report ready," Jaiho said from his station. He looked tired but determined. They had spent months preparing for this moment. Sumai sat in a special pod in the center of the room. Since that first accidental discovery, she had trained hard to control her unusual ability to reach the quantum field. Now she would help guide the others. "Begin the countdown," He-Jin ordered. On screens worldwide, numbers started counting down from 60. In meditation pods across the planet, people closed their eyes and began their breathing exercises. They had all learned the same technique, a simple pattern that would help their minds work together. As the countdown reached 0, Sumai took her first deep breath. The quantum field sensors around her pod lit up immediately. One by one, other centers reported similar readings as more minds joined the effort. "Quantum field strength rising," Jaiho reported. He watched the numbers climb higher than they had ever seen before. "We're reaching the theoretical threshold." In her pod, Sumai felt something new. It was like a gentle warmth in her mind, growing stronger as more people joined the meditation. She could almost see the connections forming, millions of minds reaching out together toward their troubled star. Suddenly, all the screens in the control room flashed white. Massive quantum field spike. Jiho shouted, "We've made contact." For a brief moment, everyone in the room felt it, a vast consciousness touching their minds. The sun was aware of them. Through their combined effort, they had reached it. Hejin watched in amazement as her instruments showed the sun's core beginning to stabilize. The changes they had feared were slowing down. Their plan was working. Then Sumai screamed. Her pod sensors went dark. In pods around the world, people began collapsing. The quantum field connection was too strong, overwhelming their minds. "Shut it down," Hejin ordered. "Break the connection." Jiho worked frantically at his controls. Around the world, meditation pods opened automatically, breaking the quantum link. But Sumai's pod remained active, still connected to the sun. "Sumai!" Jiho ran to his sister's pod. When it finally opened, she lay still, her mind lost in a coma. Similar reports came in from other centers. Dozens of people unconscious, their brains showing strange activity patterns. Admiral Lee arrived an hour later. The military leader looked grave as he reviewed the data. "We stabilized a small part of the sun," he said, "but at what cost?" Hejin stood by Sumai's pod, checking her vital signs. "She's alive, but her mind, it's like it's still connected to something." She turned to Jiho. "Your sister may have found something we didn't expect. The sun, it wasn't just responding to us. It was trying to communicate." Jiho held his sister's hand. "What do we do now?" Hejin looked at the evening sky through the window. The sun's light had changed again, showing new patterns they had never seen before. "We learn from what happened. We make the process safer. And we find out what the sun was trying to tell us." In hospitals around the world, the other coma patients lay quiet, their minds touched by something vast and ancient. And in their dreams, they all saw the same thing. A star trying to change, trying to evolve, reaching out to humanity for help. Dr. Yoon Hee-choi walked onto the stage of the World Science Conference. The famous scientist adjusted her microphone and looked at the crowded room. Behind her, a large screen showed images of the people who had fallen into comas during the New Year's Eve meditation. "The evidence is clear," she said, her voice firm. "This meditation project is dangerous. We are playing with forces we do not understand." She showed new data on the screen. "Our studies suggest that the quantum field disturbances might be making the sun's condition worse, not better." In the audience, Hejin Kim sat quietly, listening to the attacks on her work. Next to her, Admiral Lee took notes, his face serious. They had expected opposition, but not like this. "Dr. Kim's experiments have already hurt dozens of people," Yoon-hee continued. "How many more must suffer before we stop this madness?" After the presentation, reporters surrounded Hejin. "Dr. Kim, how do you respond to these accusations?" Before she could answer, her phone rang. It was Jiho calling from the hospital. "Hejin, come quickly. Sumai is talking in her sleep." Hejin hurried to the hospital, leaving the reporters behind. In Sumai's room, she found Jiho recording his sister's words. Sumai lay still in her bed, but her lips moved constantly. "Listen to this," Jiho said, playing back the recording. Sumai's voice was quiet but clear. "The star is not dying. It is changing, growing. We must help it change safely." Hejin checked Sumai's brain scans. "These patterns, they're exactly like the sun's energy waves we recorded during the meditation." "There's more," Jiho said. "All the other coma patients are saying the same things, in different languages, but the same message. They're somehow connected to each other and to the sun." Admiral Lee arrived at the hospital an hour later. "Dr. Choi's speech is all over the news," he said. "The government is under pressure to shut down the meditation centers." We can't stop now, Hejin said. She showed him Sumi's readings. The sun is trying to communicate with us through these people. It's not dying. It's evolving into something new. But the evolution could still destroy Earth, Jaho added, unless we help guide it properly. A nurse rushed into the room. Dr. Kim, all the coma patients are waking up. They hurried to Sumi's bed. As she opened her eyes, she looked at them calmly, but somehow differently, as if she had learned great secrets. Sister, Jaho held her hand. Are you okay? I understand now, Sumi said softly. I saw what the sun is trying to become, but it needs our help. It needs humanity's consciousness to guide its transformation. Outside the hospital window, the sun's strange red light seemed to pulse gently. Hejin looked at Admiral Lee. We need to continue the project, but we must do it differently this time. Safer. Dr. Choi will fight us, Admiral Lee warned. She has many supporters. Then we'll prove her wrong, Hejin said firmly. We'll show the world that the sun isn't our enemy. It's giving humanity a chance to be part of something amazing. Sumi touched Hejin's arm. There isn't much time. The change is coming, whether we help or not. But if we don't help, she didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood what was at stake. Admiral Lee stood before the United Nations Security Council in New York. The room was silent as he showed them videos of Sumi and the other recovered patients. Their stories were all the same. The sun was trying to evolve, and it needed humanity's help. We propose a new global meditation network, he explained, safer than before, with better protections for the participants. He gestured to Hejin Kim, who stepped forward with their new plans. Hejin pointed to the designs on the screen. We have created new meditation pods with improved safety systems. They will automatically disconnect anyone whose mind shows signs of strain. The council members listened carefully. The sun's strange behavior had only gotten worse in recent weeks. They needed solutions. Meanwhile, in Neo-Seoul, Jae-ho worked with a young man named Do-hyun Kang. Do-hyun had come to them after reading about Sumi's experience. During his first test in a meditation pod, he had shown extraordinary abilities. Your quantum field connection is even stronger than Sumi's, Jae-ho said, checking the readings. How do you do it? Do-hyun smiled softly. I don't try to reach the sun. I let it reach me, like listening to a friend who wants to talk. Sumi, now fully recovered, worked with Do-hyun to teach others this new approach. Together, they developed better meditation techniques that were both powerful and safe. Back in New York, the Security Council made their decision. The Global Meditation Initiative is approved, they announced. All nations will work together on this project. Within days, construction began on new meditation centers around the world. Advanced quantum field sensors were installed in each one. Hejin's improved safety systems were carefully tested. Admiral Lee coordinated the global effort. Military ships carried equipment to remote locations. Air forces protected the meditation centers. For the first time in history, all of Earth's military forces worked together for a single peaceful goal. One morning, as Hejin checked the new central control room in Neo-Seoul, she received an unexpected visit. Dr. Yoon-hee Choi, their greatest opponent, stood in the doorway. I've been studying the data from the recovered patients, Yoon-hee said quietly. I was wrong about your project. She paused. I want to help. Hejin welcomed her former opponent warmly. They needed every brilliant mind they could get. Do-hyun's voice came through the speakers. He was testing the new meditation system. I can feel it more clearly now, he reported. The sun is like a butterfly trying to emerge from its cocoon, but it needs help to transform safely. Sumi, monitoring his vital signs, nodded. His connection is stable. The new safety systems are working perfectly. Outside, the sun's light shifted through strange colors. But now they understood these changes weren't signs of death, but of birth. Their star was trying to become something new, something that had never existed in their galaxy before. Hejin looked at her team. Jai-ho with his brilliant mind, Sumai with her deep connection to the sun, Do-hyun with his natural ability to communicate with their star, and now even Yoon-hee bringing her knowledge to help. They were ready. The first global meditation session begins in 1 week, Admiral Lee announced. This time, we'll do it right. The world held its breath, waiting to help their sun transform. Sumay Park sat in the garden of the Neo-Seoul Meditation Center, watching the strange patterns in the sky. Since waking from her coma, she had understood things about the sun that seemed impossible. Now she needed to share this knowledge. Hae-jin Kim and Ji-ho found her there, sitting quietly under the moving lights. "You wanted to tell us something important," Hae-jin said, sitting beside her. "Yes." Sumai turned to them, her eyes serious. "During my coma, I learned the truth about what's happening to our sun. It's trying to become something that exists in other galaxies, but has never been seen in ours." Jai-ho leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "There are stars that have evolved beyond normal stars. They become living minds, vast beings of pure energy. Our sun is trying to make this change, but it's too young. It needs help." Inside the center, Do-hyun was working with the new meditation system. He called them on the radio. "Dr. Kim, you need to see this. The sun is sending new patterns." They hurried to the control room. On the main screen, waves of energy from the sun formed clear patterns, almost like words written in light. "I can read them," Do-hyun said softly. "The sun is asking for our help. It's showing us how to guide its evolution." Admiral Lee arrived with Dr. Yoon-hee Choi. They had been testing the new global meditation network. "All centers report ready," the Admiral said. "But what exactly are we helping the sun do?" Sumai walked to the main screen. "The sun wants to evolve, but doing it alone would release too much energy. It would destroy our solar system. With our help, it can change slowly and safely." Hae-jin studied the energy patterns. "These look like meditation instructions, but on a solar scale. The sun is teaching us how to help it." "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "It needs billions of minds working together, all following these patterns, like a bridge to help it cross to its new form." Dr. Choi checked her instruments. "The quantum field readings match what we see in advanced stars in other galaxies. Sumai is right. Our sun is trying to join them." They worked through the night, translating the sun's patterns into meditation instructions that people could follow. The patterns were beautiful in their simplicity, easy to understand but powerful when done by many minds together. "We'll need to teach these new patterns to everyone before the final meditation," Hae-jin said. "We have only weeks before the sun reaches a critical point." Admiral Lee nodded. "I'll have the military broadcast the instructions worldwide. Every meditation center will begin teaching them tomorrow." As they prepared to share humanity's most important lesson, Sumai looked out at the troubled star. "It chose us," she said quietly. "Out of all the species in our solar system, it reached out to humans because we can help it change. And in helping it," Jai-ho added, "we'll prove that humanity is ready to join a greater community of consciousness in our galaxy." The sun's light pulsed gently, as if agreeing with their words. The next step in both human and stellar evolution was about to begin. On New Year's Eve 2185, the world prepared for its most important moment. In every meditation center, people took their places in the improved meditation pods. Billions more sat in their homes, ready to join their minds in the great effort. In Neo-Seoul's central control room, Hae-jin Kim watched the global readiness indicators turn green one by one. Each light represented millions of people prepared to help guide their sun's evolution. "All safety systems are active," Jai-ho reported from his station. He looked at his sister Sumai, who sat ready in her special pod. "Are you sure about this?" Sumai nodded. "Do-hyun and I will guide everyone's minds. We know what to do now." Do-hyun sat in his pod next to hers. "The sun is waiting for us," he said quietly. "I can feel its patience." Admiral Lee stood with Dr. Choi at the main control panel. "Every military satellite is watching the sun," he said. "We'll know immediately if something goes wrong." "Nothing will go wrong," Dr. Choi said, surprising everyone with her confidence. "The sun has taught us well. We are ready." He-Jin looked at the time. 1 minute until the global meditation would begin. "Start the final countdown," she ordered. Across the world, people heard the countdown in their own languages. They had all learned the sun's patterns, practicing for weeks. Now it was time to use them. In Africa, Europe, the Americas, and Asia, billions of minds began to focus together. The quantum field sensors showed their combined consciousness rising, stronger than ever before. "Connection stable," Jai-ho called out. "Safety systems holding steady." Do-hyun and Sumai led the way, their minds reaching out to the sun first. They had done this many times in practice, but never with so many minds following them. "The sun is responding," Do-hyun said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's showing us the way." Through their combined consciousness, humanity could feel their star's gratitude. It had waited so long for a species to evolve enough to help it change. The sun's light began to pulse with new patterns. Colors that had never existed on Earth before painted the sky. The star's vast consciousness touched every human mind gently, showing them how to help. "Energy levels are rising," Dr. Choi reported, watching her instruments. "But everything is controlled. The sun is following the safe path we prepared." In their pods, Sumai and Do-hyun guided humanity's efforts like conductors leading a vast orchestra of minds. Each person contributed their small part to the greater whole. "Look at the readings," He-Jin whispered. The sun's core was changing, but not in the dangerous way they had feared. Instead, it was transforming smoothly, following the path they had learned. Admiral Lee received reports from around the world. "No problems anywhere," he announced. "Every center is working perfectly." As the meditation continued, the sun's light steadied into a new pattern. The strange red color began to fade, replaced by something better. A warm, golden light that felt more alive than ever before. "It's working," Sumai said, joy in her voice. "The sun is evolving safely. We're helping it become something wonderful." In that moment, every human on Earth could feel it. They were part of something greater than themselves. Together, they were helping their star take its next step in cosmic evolution. And in helping the sun, humanity was evolving too. The morning sun rose over Neo-Seoul, its light different from anything Earth had ever seen before. The color was pure gold, filled with subtle patterns that spoke of deep intelligence. Humanity's star had evolved, becoming something new in the galaxy. He-Jin Kim stood in her office, watching the changed sun with tears in her eyes. After all their work, all their fears, they had succeeded. Behind her, Jai-ho and Sumai Park entered the room quietly. "The quantum field readings are amazing," Jai-ho said, showing her his tablet. "The sun's consciousness is fully stable now. It evolved exactly as we hoped." Sumai smiled, looking healthier and stronger than ever. "It's talking to us," she said, "not just to the meditation centers, but to everyone." "Can you feel it?" He-Jin could. All across Earth, people were discovering they could sense the sun's gentle presence in their minds. It wasn't scary or overwhelming anymore. Instead, it felt like having a wise, kind friend watching over them. Admiral Lee arrived with Dr. Choi. They had been checking reports from around the world. "Every country says the same thing," the Admiral announced. "People can communicate with the sun just by thinking quietly. It's teaching us things. The sun is sharing knowledge." Dr. Choi explained, her face bright with excitement. "It's showing us how other evolved stars live, how they talk to each other across the galaxy. We're learning about a whole community of stellar beings we never knew existed." Do-hyun joined them, carrying new readings from the meditation center. "The sun says we helped it become the first evolved star in our part of the galaxy," he reported. "Now it can teach other stars how to evolve safely too, with help from their own planets." He-Jin looked at her team. The people who had helped make this miracle possible. What happens now? She asked. Now, Sumai said, we learn. The sun wants to teach humanity everything it knows. It says we're ready to join the greater community of consciousness in the galaxy. Through the window, they could see people in the streets looking up at their transformed star with wonder and joy. Children pointed at the beautiful patterns in the light. Parents held their little ones close, feeling the sun's warm thoughts in their minds. The military has a new job, Admiral Lee said with a smile. We're building special communication centers to help people learn from the sun. Everyone who wants to will have a chance to talk with it. Dr. Choi checked her instruments one last time. All readings are perfect, she said. The sun is healthier and more stable than ever before, and it will live much longer than a normal star, now that it has evolved. Jaiho put his arm around his sister Sumai. You were the first to understand, he said proudly. You showed us the way. We all did it together, Sumai answered. Every person who joined the meditation helped. That's what the sun wanted to teach us, that we're stronger when we work as one. Heijin touched the warm window glass. The sun's thoughts reached back to her, full of gratitude and friendship. Humanity had helped their star become something new, and in doing so, they had changed too. They were no longer just one small planet's people. Now they were part of something much bigger and more wonderful. Outside, the new sun shone on a changed earth, its light carrying messages of hope and wisdom to all who could hear them. A new age had begun, not just for one star or one planet, but for all the galaxy.